What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my builds guide and unit review of the Ascended Fir banner featuring Noah, Dorothy and also Saul as the instant demote unit. I've already covered Heidr in a completely different video, and in this video I'll be going over the rest of the units from this patch. So Ascended Fir is a sword infantry unit with 187 BST and she's a god sword with Vassal Saint Steel. So this is a preferred weapon, giving her minus some special cooldown, and it also has Time Pulse 4 built in. So not only can pre-charge specials like Glimmer, Moonbow, Ruptured Sky and Vital Astra, but also loop it because of the mini special spiral effect after the combat. So having this effect does make it so that she's a really good user of Vital Astra and doesn't really have to run Time Pulse 4 in her slot C and can just run some other skills. At start of combat, if her HP is at or above 25%, then she's able to get +5 to all of her stats, and then she can inflict speed and defense debuff on the foe depending on the foe's maximum special cooldown count, multiplied by 2 and then subtracted by 11. So the lower the special cooldown count of the opponent, the more debuffs she's going to be able to get, and a lot of the meta specials are not really all that high cooldown specials, so that's why she's going to be able to get even more speed debuff on the opponent, which is extremely good as a god sword, because stacking up as much of speed as possible is always helpful, and Lear and Ascended Fir are really good at that. So she's able to do that and also run stuff like Close Call 4 to get the phantom speed out of it and be very fast and make use of the damage reduction skills. She also has 40% damage reduction from foe's first attack, and then finally if her speed is more than foe's speed +5, then she gets the Null Guard effect. So the Null Guard effect is helpful, especially if you're running godlike reflexes with Darting Breath, as she's going to be able to basically, try to loop it. But overall, she is going to be lacking Vital Astra because of having Time Pulse 4 built in her weapon, which is really helpful. She also comes with Attack Speed Finish 4, which is an excellent skill for speed stacking. But if you want to Omni Tank, then you might want to give her Distant Counter, Distant Dart, or even Distant Attack Speed Solo. And then she also has the tier 4 version of the Null Follow-Up skill and Physical Null Follow-Up. So Physical Null Follow-Up can debuff the opponent for -4 speed and defense debuff, which is really good, again, for a god sword, and then it does have the full Null Follow-Up effect, and then finally can have the foe's non-special damage reduction skills by 50%. So this doesn't really include stuff like godlike reflexes or any of those defensive specials, but rather stuff like Vital Astra, Close Call 4, Dragon Wall, and all of those kinds of damage reduction. So having this damage reduction halving is really helpful, especially against a meta threat like Lucia, who's a very popular god sword, and she can disable the specials of the enemy. So there's really no way of triggering Deadeye lethality or specials like that against Lucia. So this can be a really helpful tool facing Lucia, and some of the good users of Physical Null Follow-Up are going to be units like Legendary Chess, for example, who does have a Brave weapon. So she's going to be able to make fantastic use out of this, and even beast units who don't really have access to Close Call 4 and a lot of the other skills can make use of Physical Null Follow-Up so that they can have the damage reduction skills of the enemies and basically get the damage reduction themselves by running Speed Smoke 4. And then finally, units like Legendary Lyn, who don't really have minus on special cooldown and have a bit awkward time running stuff like Deadeye or Lethality, can also make use of this and also just cut through the damage reduction. Overall, Ascended Fir is a top tier god sword by having 46 base speed and also by having 44 base attack, and having this kind of weapon which not only gives her +5 speed but also gives her even more speed by the speed debuffs that she can try and get. Obviously, if you're trying to run her as an Omni Tank, then a lot of the changes are to be made to her base kit, and we do have a lot of god swords, so there is definitely quite a bit of competition, but it's not like she's a bad unit or anything like that. If you really like Fir, then she's going to be functioning really strong as a fast sword infantry unit. Building a Fir on a budget is pretty easy with her base kit as tagged as that, so you can just run Reposition and run something like Bonus Doubler, as it does go well with the Oath 4 skill that she comes with. But in my opinion, Vital Astra is definitely an investment you can try and make if you're a big fan of her and if you really use her quite a lot. And because she's an Ascended unit, you can actually ascend her asset for free, so you can just ascend her speed asset right from the get-go, and if you do get the plus attack IV, then that's also pretty good. So you can run Vital Astra and also run Speed Smoke 4 so that you can stack up the damage reduction and that can definitely help her be a bulky God Sword unit. But in my opinion, having physical null follow-up is not the best option on a lot of God Swords because they want to stack up as much speed as possible, and phantom speed from tier 4 damage reduction skills like Close Call 4 and Repel 4 is extremely helpful, and you get even more damage reduction and also the speed and defense debuff on the enemy. So in my opinion, running that is definitely going to be the best lobby skill for her. So you can run that and also let her function as an Omni tank by running Distant Dart. And Vital Astra is again going to be a really good option if you're going to be investing a bit more into her. You can also use her as an Omni tank in Aether Raids offense, and there I feel like Godlike Reflexes is going to be helping you because it does prevent the piercing from Deadeye, Lethality, Sublime Heaven, Enclosure, and all of those specials. So the non-pierceable aspect of Godlike Reflexes is really good. I feel like Godlike Reflexes is really helpful in Aether Raids offense for that use, and you can just run Darting Breath, and because of the Null Guard present in her weapon, hopefully she's going to be able to loop Godlike Reflexes and function as a really solid Omni tank, especially with Distant Attack Speed Solo, Close Call 4 and Speed Smoke 4 if you do have an extra Fallen Pilot. She is going to be missing out on the null follow-up effect, so I highly recommend you to outsource that through any kind of ally with infantry null follow-up skill or infantry speed tactic. And then finally, at max investment, she can definitely run Vital Astra and Close Call and all of these damage reduction skills. And if you really want, instead of outsourcing the null follow-up, you could even run this as the Sacred Seal. Noah is a Lance Cavalier with pretty good offenses at base 45 attack with a super boon and base 45 speed. And not only he's going to be offensive, but also unique support wise because he can provide the dodge and the dull ult status to your Omni tanks. At start of turn, if the number of allies adjacent to Noah is less than or equal to 2, then he's able to get the dodge status and the dull ult effect to himself, and also provides that to the support partners within 2 spaces of him. So even if he does not have any kind of support partner, he's going to be able to get the dodge and the dull ult status, as we have seen in the story mode. So that is pretty good, but the best use out of Noah is definitely the support aspect, where you can just run some kind of God Sword or some kind of Omni tank and provide them the dodge status. For example, Brave Claw does not have access to dodge status that easily outside of Speed Smoke 4, so you can definitely give this to him as a status, and also dull ult effect, which is also really helpful in tanking. And a lot of times you're going to be facing Embla, so giving these status effects does make them Embla proof because these are the visible status and not the in-combat drive effects, so that is extremely good. And then if the number of allies adjacent to him is less than or equal to 1, then he can get +5 to all of his stats and also gets true damage based on 15% of foe's attack, including the AoE specials. So he basically has like a true damage Ruptured Sky built in his weapon, which can help him even further offensively with his base attack of 45, which also has a super boon. He also comes with Flow Guard and Alarm Speed Defense. So Flow Guard can be a good skill for getting that half null follow up in the player phase so that he can double the follow-up negation enemies, and then getting Alarm Speed Defense does give you Canto 1, which is really helpful as a status, and then you can also get speed and defense buff, so that does help him in the combat. And Canto 1 is also really good, especially when you're not running a Trace skill in your slot B. So overall, I do think that Noah is a pretty unique unit, and he's definitely going to be unique for a long time because there's no other unit in the game who can provide you the dodge status as well as the dull ult status at the same time. So giving these status effects to Omni tanks does make him pretty unique as a support unit. And even though we do have a lot of Lance Cavaliers which perform really good offensively, I think Noah is going to be standing out because of his support aspect, and you can definitely see him being used in something like Aether Raids offense, for example. So I'm pretty happy with the implementation of Noah and the support that he brings to the table. If you're going to be running Noah on a budget, then you can simply give him Fury 3 in his slot A and run something like Attack Speed Solo or Speed Defense Catch. Either of those skills do work out fine, and if you're going to be using him for the Omni tank support, then I do feel like making him a buff bot is the right way to go with the things. So you can just give him Infantry Speed Tactics so that not only he can give the dodge status and the dull ult status, but also the null follow-up status to his infantry allies. So you can give 3 status to a support partner, which is absolutely amazing, and this is something you can definitely do in Aether Raids offense, especially in the light season where you're going to be facing a lot of Emblas, and at the same time you can also fully buff up the ally, which is also really good. You do need to keep in mind that the tactic condition is met because only then the infantry speed tactic is going to be working, and he's going to be able to function as a pretty good support bot. You can also use him with Life and Death and function as an AoE nuke, because he does get the true damage added to his AoE specials. So if you run him with Duo Asker, then you can definitely use the Duo button and pretty much use him as an AoE nuker. So that is also an option with his builds. You can also run hit and run with alarm speed defense so that he can actually retreat 2 spaces, 1 space with hit and run and then 1 space with his Canto that he gets from the alarm skill. So that is really good for retreating, especially with this AoE build. You can also give him attack speed catch 4 and run him with Ruptured Sky, which does go well with his weapon, which already focuses on foes attack. So that could be done. And finally, at max investment, he can run attack speed clash 4 and also run flow and trace and just stack up even more damage reduction by running speed smoke 4 with the dot status that he already gets from his weapon. So that way he's going to be able to get 64% damage reduction in the combat, which definitely makes him as a bulky Lance Cavalier. And he does have amazing offenses, so attack and speed debuff neutralization does help quite a lot. Dorothy is the 4-star focus unit of this banner, and she's going to be entering in the 3-star 4-star pool once the banner ends. So she's an infantry archer with Defier's Bow Plus as the inertable weapon. This is basically the non-seasonal version of Sunflower Bow Plus that we have seen before on Summer Leone. But at the end of the day, you definitely want to give her Whitecap Bow Plus or Arcane Nastron. And those weapons definitely go well with her offensive stat spread of base 46 attack and base 43 speed, which does have a super boon. So Dorothy is just really offensively oriented, and comparing her to Etier and Kiragi, some of the archers that we have got in this generation, you can see that she's basically like a more offensive version of Etier. She's not going to be having as much defense as Etier or even Kiragi, but that is fine because she's going to be functioning really well offensively with this kind of stat spread and the high speed that she has got, especially with Whitecap Bow Plus, which does have the speed check so that he can get the Brave effect. So Dorothy is going to be a really good offensive archer, and if you're a big fan of her, then you can definitely try and build her up, and she's going to be functioning really well. As for the fodder, she does bring speed resistance ideal 3 at 4-star and attack res 03 at 5 stars. So this could be helpful if you're trying to inherit the tier 4 versions of these skills and get another skill along with it. For building up Dorothy on a budget, you can simply give her Desperation and Luna as the special and run Blade Session with this kind of player phase build. And Defier's Bow Plus is a decent inheritable weapon, but in my opinion, if you're going to be investing a bit more into her, then you can definitely give her Whitecap Bow Plus, which is really good with her offensive stat spread. And you can also give her these skills which are available in Divine Codes like Attack Speed Ideal, Null Follow-Up, and also Attack Speed Oath 4. So she can function with this player phase build and hit really hard with the Brave effect, and also be really fast with her super boon and speed. If you want to give her Arcane Nastron, then that's also going to be an option, and it does work really well for triggering Deadeye because it does give you the -1 special cooldown, and because Dorothy doesn't really have as much defense as Etier or Kiragi, she does appreciate the damage reduction from Arcane Nastron, and you can stack up the damage reduction for 50% damage reduction by using Remote Sparrow as the slot A skill. And then Null Follow-Up and Attack Speed Oath 4 does work fine with this build, and you can also run Blade Session as this is mainly a player phase build. You can also run the Tempo skill on her so that she can make sure to always trigger Deadeye, and you can also run the Finish skill because it does provide her with the true damage and also the healing, which is really good. And then you can just run Null Follow-Up as the Sacred Seal if you're not able to outsource it from some other ally. And then finally, at max investment, she can actually run Physical Null Follow-Up in her slot B so that she's going to be having the damage reduction through her regular hits, and then whenever she triggers Deadeye, she's going to be able to just completely neutralize the damage reduction. So this is a max investment build which can help her, and Physical Null Follow-Up also gives the speed debuff to her, which does make it easier for her to function offensively. Saul is an infantry healer, and he's been given out through Midpoint quest, but after the banner is over, he's going to be appearing in the 3-star 4-star pool, and Saul is basically the best offensive healer that we have got in the 3-star 4-star pool, because if you compare his 40 base attack and 44 base speed with Princess Naina, then you can see that Saul has got not only more speed but also even more attack. He of course does trade off some of the defense and HP, but that is not really all that bad if you mainly want to focus on functioning as an offensive healer. And he also has pretty good resistance, so he can definitely take the magical hits pretty well. And it's just going to be making him as a really good infantry healer investment if you really like him a lot, and if you want to plus and merge him, and hopefully one day we can get the Arcane Staff. So for right now, he does have Incurable Plus as the inheritable staff, and this is basically the non-seasonal version of Serpentine Staff. So inflicting the deep wound status on the enemies is pretty good, and you can easily run this with like double savage blow and function as a pretty nice and budget healer. He also comes with Distant Defense 3 at 5-star and Drive Resistance 2 at 4-star. So he does have decent fodder, especially for the other healers, and even for the other units if they want to inherit like the tier 4 version of Distant Defense 3. Everyone gets a 5-star copy of Saul, so if you just want to use him on a budget for something like limited hero battles or arena assault, then you can give him double savage blow and run Wings of Mercy so that he can teleport and heal up the allies, and give him the dazzling refined for his incurable staff. So this is going to be a pretty nice splash damage build, which you can even use at a budget. And if you want to go a bit further and want to give him an offensive skill, then attack speed ideal 4 and dazzling staff could be obtained from the divine codes, and he can function again with incurable plus and doing the splash damage with double savage blow. And plus speed IV is going to be his best IV, especially with this kind of offensive stat spread. And if you want to build him even more offensively, then you can run Palm Staff Plus, which can give you the speed debuff, which does help offensively, and you can run attack speed ideal 4. You can also get Fire Flood, Bomb Plus, and Return Plus, and auto recovery from divine codes as well. So if you want to invest even more into him, then you can certainly run him with Dazzling Shift and Light's Restraint from Ascended Elincia, and run him with Palm Staff until we get some kind of Arcane Staff to hopefully go along with it. And Time Pulse 4 could be run so that Light's Restraint is a 1 cooldown special, and you can easily trigger that on his double. You can also fodder off a Fallen Maria if you really like Saul and give him Poetic Justice for a bit of true damage, and also run attack speed unity with the Oath 4 skill. So that is also a possible offensive build that you can run on Saul at this kind of max investment. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to build up any of these units from this banner, and I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps you tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more Fir videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I wish YouTube sub boxes showed my videos as many times as we get the demote healers. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.